Time now for a little latest in the local news. In the news, no definite word on when the grievance committee will make a decision after listening to several hours of testimony from witnesses Monday, including the man who requested the hearing, former Jesup Police Chief Mike Lane. Lane was terminated by the city manager, Mike Deal, under the employee handbook at the request of the city commissioners, who voted 6-0 to have him terminated. And he initiated the grievance hearing in front of the committee, and that took place Monday at the Craig Williams Community Center. Committee decided Monday not to make a decision that afternoon, but wait and take time to view all the documents and make certain that they study all the evidence and testimony before them. As Mike Lane's attorney, Hugh McCullough, stated Monday that the committee has the authority to reinstate Mike Lane as chief of police, and that's the hope of Mike Lane, as he has spent the past 28 years in law enforcement with the city, rising through the ranks and being selected as chief of police, a position he's held for the last 3 years. In his closing statement to the grievance committee on Monday, attorney Hugh McCullough, who represented Mike Lane at the hearing, quoted Mark Twain, who said, "Always do what is right. It will gratify half of mankind and astonish the others." McCullough asked the grievance committee to do what's right and astonish everyone. And Mike Lane was terminated by the city manager, who was instructed by the city commissioners on a 6-0 vote to do just that. City manager sent Lane a letter of termination, and in it he outlines the reasons why Lane is being terminated. The grievance committee has a copy of that letter and is part of the evidence in the hearing. City represented on Monday by attorney Jim Elliott out of Valdosta, Georgia. He referred to that letter in his closing argument Monday afternoon. Here was his closing argument by the city's attorney at the grievance hearing, Jim Elliott.
Mr. Lane and Mr. McCullough did a really good job of presenting the case to refute allegations in a lawsuit that had absolutely nothing to do with the city's decision to terminate Mr. Lane's employment. Mr. Deal testified that the allegations in that lawsuit didn't have anything to do with it. And if you read his termination letter, it proves out that it was Mr. Lane's conduct, to which he has come here and admitted today, that resulted in his termination. In fact, he admits that what he did was wrong. He admits, if you listen to his testimony, that he is subject to an adverse employment action under the personnel policy. He admits he needed to be punished. I mean, those words came out of his mouth. And he said he only admitted to one thing. Well, that's not exactly true. He's actually admitted to the two prominent things that are in Mr. Deal's termination letter. That is his, you read the transcript, as I know some of you have been looking through it, admitted to this highly inappropriate, sexually charged conversation with Ms. Brantley, a woman potentially 20, perhaps 15 years his junior, but more importantly, significantly, his subordinate. You know, we say in South Georgia, he's the big boss, and she works for him. And he admits to the inappropriate conversation, but he also admits to sending the email about the questioning the paternity of an employee's, a subordinate's unborn child. And yeah, it was all a big joke, but I want to mention to you some things you've heard from a lot of these other folks that came here to testify today. You know, Mr. McCullough asked most, if not all, of the police officers if they had been in the room while all the testimony about Mr. Lane's conduct had been going on, and Mr. McCullough asked all of them, or virtually all of them, if they heard anything they disagreed with, and they all said no. And he asked them if they heard anything that surprised them, even all this talk about all the sexual conversations, and they all said no, they weren't surprised by that. And the only person that wasn't surprised, that was shocked about some of this, was somebody who lived on the outside. And that was this nice lady back here who's the tourism director, who said when she came and heard about the email, the questioning the who's the baby's daddy, that she was shocked by that and that she was embarrassed for that employee by that. Now I want to tell you why that's so important. What that says to me, and I think it should say to you, is that over the years, the police department in the city of Jesup, and most recently under the leadership of Mike Lanes, had developed a culture where sexual jokes, sexual innuendo, inappropriate sexual conduct, having highly charged sexual conversations was not surprising to them. It was not shocking to them. It was part of the culture of the organization. I will leave it with this. Mr. Deal told you that the termination was based on what's in the letter, was based on matters to which Mr. Lane admitted, not on matters that are alleged in a lawsuit. And he acknowledged struggling with that, but that after doing so and consulting trusted advisors, as I would like to call them, if they were people in my life that I was talking to, that he came down on following what he had been asked to do, which was to terminate Mr. Lane's employment. And that's the decision that he made, that's the decision that he's affirmed, and that's the decision that he, as the decision maker, has chosen to live with. And I would ask this body to respect that decision and to affirm it. Thank you.
Once again, those were the comments of the city attorney, Jim Elliott. Again, he's out of Valdosta, representing the city at the grievance hearing. In the employee handbook, it states a copy of the decision of the grievance committee shall be given to the affected employee and the department head of same within 3 working days following the completion of the hearing. The decision of the grievance committee is final. So the hearing ended Monday afternoon. 3 days is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So by Friday, there should be a decision made by the committee and made public. As soon as we receive it, we'll have it here on WIFO FM. Again, it could come earlier than that time frame. But again, once it's made public, again, we'll have the decision by the grievance committee here on WIFO FM's local news. We'll be back with more local news right after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Legislative session continues in Atlanta. It's winding down. A couple of weeks left. Today we'll check in with State Representative Bill Werkheiser on Wednesdays with Werkheiser on the world famous Butch and Bob Show. A lot of bills concerning changes in the voting systems in Georgia. There seems to be broad support to have voters provide more identification to prove their identity when casting an absentee ballot under a proposal among the majority of Republicans in the General Assembly. For most voters, the ID requirement could be fulfilled by writing down a driver's license number on an absentee ballot request form. And again, on the absentee ballot envelope, about 3% of registered voters don't have a license of a state ID number on file, and they would need to submit additional documentation. Absentee ID proposal appears to be one of the most likely changes in voting rules to pass in Georgia this year. Very similar language in both the House and Senate bills. Lawmakers are also considering legislation to end no-excuse absentee voting, limit Sunday voting, and restrict drop boxes. The ID number would become a new way of verifying absentee voters, replacing Georgia's signature matching process. Under the existing law, election workers compare the handwriting of signatures with voters' signatures kept on file, often from when they registered to vote. Once again, we'll be talking with State Representative Bill Werkheiser, get an update from the state legislature this morning on the world famous Butch and Bob Show. Former Governor Sonny Perdue is under serious consideration to lead Georgia's higher education system, one of the most powerful and influential jobs in the state government. Republican has not yet formally applied to lead the University of Georgia system, which oversees the state's public colleges and universities, and officials say the national search will be an open and transparent process. Still, people involved in the search on condition of anonymity acknowledge the former two-term governor as a strong contender. 74-year-old Perdue declined to comment through an aide. He recently completed his job as President Trump's agricultural secretary. Perdue and his political network, among the most powerful in the state, has close ties with the current governor, Brian Kemp, who has broad influence over the chancellor post and also declined to comment. In 2010, Perdue picked Kemp to fill the open post of Secretary of State, giving him a leg up on the Republican arrivals months before the election, and Trump credited Perdue with helping to talk him into endorsing Kemp for governor, prior to his runaway victory over Casey Cagle. Final say for the decision belongs to the Board of Regents, whose members are appointed by governors to staggered 6-year terms. Job of chancellor of the higher education system is among the most coveted and highest paying posts in Georgia government. Currently, Steve Wrigley, a former chief of staff to Governor Zell Miller, who was named chancellor in 2017, announced in January that he's retiring. Wrigley, who earned $524,000 last year, steps down July 1st. We'll be back with some final news notes after this word from our sponsor of the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Final notes news, the Wayne County School System once again is updating the COVID report at the school system. This is for the week of March 8th through the 12th, and the numbers continue to go in the positive direction. Again, they have 5,054 students in the Wayne County School System, and as that week they only had 3 weekly positive COVID cases, one at Jesup Elementary, one at Arthur Williams, one at the high school. Again, as far as employees, they have 840 employees in the Wayne County School System, only 2 weekly positive cases for the week of March 8th through the 12th. Again, they update those statistics each week. The Wayne County Star Student and Star Teacher will be announced at a membership luncheon by the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce on Tuesday, April 20th. It will take place at the Pine Forest Country Club from 11:30 to 1 p.m. And they'll have a buffet. Program will start at 12 noon. Guest speakers on the program will be Principal and Director of Solid Rock Christian Academy, Sherry Bowen. Also, Wayne County's new school superintendent, Dr. Sean Kelly, and Dr. Lonnie Roberts, president of Coastal Pines Technical College. And registrations underway. Early bird membership, $25 from now up until Wednesday, April 14th. $35 non-members and walk-ins after Wednesday, April 14th. Make your reservation now. Call the chamber at 427-2028. Reminder that on Friday, March 26th, we'll have in studio as our special guest on the world famous Butch and Bob Show, Wayne County's new school superintendent, Dr. Sean Kelly, takes over April 1st, has been in Wayne County this past month, getting familiar with the system, lining up personnel for the coming school year. And Dr. Sean Kelly will join us on the world famous Butch and Bob Show a week from this Friday, March the 26th. That's going to do it for latest in local news. Sports comes your way in a few minutes. Bob Morgan, have a great day.